the pledge led by our student member, Ms. Safey.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll go to item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes, Mr. Rockwell.
Great. We'll keep going then. Item 2.
Did you say no change?
Yeah. No changes. No concurrent agenda. Yeah, it's crazy. It's gonna be. Let's see if we can screw up a simple one tonight. Let's see. Number 2, approval of minutes of the special meeting of October 5th, 2022, and the regular and special meetings of September 15th, 2022. Any heartburn over what's on paper? Great. Let's see. That takes us all the way down to item 5, reports and communications. We will start with 5.1, student members report.
Murray Middle School. Last week, students dressed as explorers to celebrate our Adventurous Spirit Day, and many students and staff even participated in the lunchtime karaoke events. The quarter also ended last week, and students are selecting their new advisories for enrichment or receiving support from their math and English teachers. At the end of this month, students who remain eligible will get to participate in the Halloween dance, wear costumes, and compete in various best of events. The PTSO met again this week to discuss sweaters, fundraisers, and new endeavors to support student culture. Thank you for all you do to enrich the student experience. Families, please feel free to join us in the library on the second Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. Cross country and volleyball continue to perform admirably at their events, and to celebrate their efforts, ASB had their first spirit rally scheduled for today. The concert band and orchestra had their concerts last week, while the beginning groups invited parents to see their budding performance skills in the cafeteria during class time. Thank you to everyone who performed and spectated. It was a beautiful set of events. James Monroe Middle School. Life is pretty busy for the students at James Monroe. The first quarter just ended, and the first intervention cycle is in full swing. We are supporting and enriching academies for each and every Tiger. The volleyball season has been going strong and will finish up in the next few weeks. Basketball tryouts will kick off at the end of the month, just before the gym shuts down for some much needed and appreciated TLC, to include a fresh coat of paint, a resurfaced floor, and a new screen for viewing purposes. Before closing it up, we will have a pair of assemblies for Rachel's Challenge, promoting a positive school culture focusing on kindness, compassion, and empathy. It will be one of the last events in our gym before our remodel. We can't wait for the final reveal of the gym in January. Clubs have been kicking off, and students have brought some great new ideas for clubs to campus. We love the energy and school spirit that this shows, and don't expect to see anyone slowing down anytime soon. Mesquite High School. We had a busy first quarter at Mesquite. We have seen our students' hard work paying off. We have had an increase in students' credits earned, as well as honor roll recipients. And we celebrated another graduate, bringing this year's total to 2. Next week, a group of juniors and seniors will attend Saracoso's College and Career Exploration Day. This will give them the opportunity to speak with various employers in the area, as well as learn about programs and opportunities available to them at Saracoso. We are busy planning our annual Halloween event, and our students will be getting into the Halloween spirit with Spooky Movie Day, Tie-Dye Tuesday, Wacky Hair Wednesday, Sleepy Hollow Thursday, and Costume Day as our October Spirit Days. Sherman E. Burroughs High School. Homecoming week was a great success. ASB and the cheerleaders did a great job organizing the HOCO events, and everyone had a great time. There was more participation than we have seen in a long time, as class competition inspired school spirit. 18 teams participated in the Amazing Race, 11 teams in dodgeball, and all grades participated in powder puff and float building. Congratulations to Menorah Maud on being crowned homecoming queen. On October 6th, we had Teal and Lime Green Spirit Day in honor and memory of those teachers who have or are still battling cancer. October 20th is Purple Day in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Tomorrow will be Scary vs. Fairy Day, and on Halloween will be Costume Day. No weapons or face coverings are allowed. There will also be a Halloween door decorating contest from the 21st through the 31st. The 24th through the 28th will be Red Ribbon Week, where students will be given wristbands as a reminder to say no to drugs. In addition, the ASB treasurer has prepared a document of facts to help educate kids on drug use. Red Ribbon Week will end with Red Out Day. For STEM Day on November 4th, NOC WD will hold various presentations on campus. Students will attend these presentations during their science classes. Culture Fest, held by the Multicultural Club, will also be on the 4th. The fall play All My Sons by Arthur Miller will be held on October 21st, 22nd, 28th, and 29th. And the music department will be having a scary music concert on the 27th. Students have been working hard. Fall sports have had several league matches and tournaments, and their seasons are coming to an end. The SAT was held on October 1st, the ASVAB last Thursday, and the PSAT yesterday. AP test fees are due on November 8th, and quarter grades were submitted by teachers yesterday, so parents can expect them soon.
Great, thank you, Regina. Takes us to item 2, reports from members of the board. Mr. Hauk, Dr. Hauk, sorry. Gosh, how could I forget?
It's okay. It's all right. I had a few things. One that I didn't have to run for this position the first time. Doing it this time, it's been an experience, and I'm thankful for all the opportunities that have been created for the candidates to be able to introduce themselves and talk about, answer questions and talk about issues that are out there. We're also voters, so it's also helpful, I think, for us to get to see the other candidates that are out there. So I've enjoyed that. That was one of the things that I wanted to say thank you and point out, and for our, 8 people that are on YouTube right now, and go out and vote, regardless of who you vote for. That's less than a month away. The second thing, homecoming, thank you for bringing that up. Since I've got a high schooler there at home, I got to see every night or every day they get ready and participate. But I also participated in the snack bar at the homecoming football game. The number of staff members and community members that were out there was really very impressive. And then working in the snack bar is its own thing. I hadn't been in the new snack bar. I remember the old one. It brought back a lot of memories of even just being there. But it's a pretty spectacular snack bar going on with some high-tech stuff. All the point of sale, all the different types of food, and also getting to meet the people. So that was a neat thing to get to be a part of that and see that. The third thing that I made note that I wanted to talk about, I was at the Kern Community College District board meeting today, and we had a report from one of our state advocacy people, and in their report, they specifically brought up a K-12 issue, which is unique at a Kern Community College District meeting, and it was something that Dr. Ostash and I have talked about. There's something like $600 million that have been put out there for K-12 dual enrollment programs. I know we had talked about it, knowing that this was coming, and that was brought up specifically at that board meeting as kind of an exciting opportunity to be able to continue to grow what Kern Community College District is calling their Early College Initiative, where they're working with the high schools all across our vast service area. And hopefully we as a district will at least consider what it entails to get some of those funds to increase the number of opportunities for early college dual enrollment for our students. So something to report that I learned just today, and I thought that might be a neat thing for us to talk about in the future. Of if we go for this money, what does it look like? And what does it look like for our district for dual enrollment early college moving forward? So that's all. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dr. Huck. Mr. Johnson.
I just have one thing. Last month, Dr. Austin Tash and I were able to go to Washington, D.C. for National Association of Federering Back to Schools by actually semi-annual conference. And at that meeting, both NAFIS, which is National Association of Federering Back to Schools, the Military and Back to Schools Association and the Federal Lands and Back to School Association met. Great opportunity for advocacy. We took a trip up on the Hill and talked to Congressman McCarthy's lead staff around education policy issues. His office is a big backer of this program, so I just want to thank the district for providing me the opportunity to go back. That advocacy is very important because it's about $2 million for our district, and I think if you're not there, it's pretty easy for the other groups there they can change lines and take away your money. So I think we need to continue to support the program and be there at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Takes us to 3 superintendent's report. Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Do want to emphasize what Regina had indicated in her report, that we did have a great homecoming. I want to compliment Mrs. Cope and her staff. We had great activities, we had great weather, we had great student involvement. I want to actually compliment our students at Burroughs High School. I think they had a great time and knew how to keep everything in the spirit of homecoming. The ASB leaders and the cheerleaders, they just all did a phenomenal job in coming together and creating a great spirit for our high school and for our community. I'm looking forward to seeing the fall play. Ms. Poole, that'd be great. Looking forward to that. I heard that was the next couple of weekends. Just want to amplify that and get you some advertisement there. Month one enrollment was 5,099 students. Last year, this time was 5,039. So we're up 60 students from this time last year. And then the next thing, I'll spend a few minutes talking about a very prominent feature of our district, which is our LCAP, our Local Control Accountability Plan. I'm going to take just a couple minutes here and read not our LCAP, because what started 10 years ago as an aspiration for being just a couple pages is about 100 pages or so, right? So we're not going to do that. But I did get an email from Dr. Mary Barlow, our county superintendent, who said on September 27th, she said, thank you for your work in creating a local control and accountability plan known as the LCAP that outlines the blueprint for success as determined by your district stakeholders. The role of the county superintendent is to ensure that the district LCAP that the LCAPs in the county reflect stakeholder input and provide the community with a thorough framework of district spending priorities, especially related to increased and improved services for the local control funding formula target populations, which are those 3 groups: the English learners, the low-income students, and foster youth. After a review of your district's LCAP, which is us, it was determined that Sierra Sands Unified School District's LCAP meets all of the criteria as outlined in Education Code 52070 and is approved. Congratulations. Thank you for your hard work in engaging your educational partners in an open and transparent manner to develop your district's LCAP. We wish to express our appreciation to the district staff for their hard work and cooperation during the review process. The collaboration between the Kern County Superintendent of Schools LCAP support team and your district team was essential to the approval of this year's LCAP. We look forward to your continued partnership in supporting the development and implementation of your district's LCAP. And I want to draw some connections. So this is a really good piece of news, and it is also a reflection of Dr. Savko and her team who helped lead the efforts for the LCAP. But I want to kind of draw some connections as to, so what does this really actually mean for us? Because one of the most important aspects for LCAP and LCFF is that we accurately collect data so that we get our fair portion of revenue from the state, and it's essential revenue. So October is a big month for data collection. We have our California Basic Educational Data System collection, known as CBEDS, and it's just kind of the CBEDS is CBEDS is an annual data collection administered, and the purpose of CBEDS is to collect data about schools and districts as well as some aggregate data on students and staff. But the other and that's really important, and we have strong systems in place to collect that data. But the other 2 forms of data that are really essential to our district, one of which Mr. Johnson talked about, which is our affiliation with NAFIS, which is how we get our impact aid funds. And the impact aid is a federal program that was started way back in the 1950s or so, and It's a federal line item, a congressionally approved line item of money that comes to school districts like ours who are, from a financial point of view, negatively impacted because there's so much federal land that does not draw tax revenue to our districts like most ordinary districts have. So we get this extra revenue. For us, it's about $1.5 to $2 million a year. And so on October 5th, just about a week ago, we sent out a parent square to everyone that had a hyperlink in it where you could, it would literally take, since I have a student in the school district, I think it took me maybe 45 or 60 seconds maybe to fill out this impact aid form. So it's really important that every single parent, guardian in the district fills out an impact aid form for their student. And we're collecting those forms this month, and so I just want to emphasize the importance of that, because if we don't turn in those forms, we don't get that revenue. Remembering that the revenue we get is backfilling revenue that we don't get from the state that other districts do. So these aren't frivolous monies that go unused. They're essential revenues that we use to pay our teachers, our staff, buy curriculum materials to teach our students. The other form, which is a really important form, is either the household income form or the free and reduced lunch application. And a parent can fill out either one, and that will be helpful for us. But what's critical for that form is that it helps establish for us what our revenue sources will be by the state. And so as we reach a percentage threshold, in the case of the state, it's 55%. If 55% or more of your students are either qualified for free or reduced lunch, or are an English learner student, or are foster youth, that is what comprises this percentage. And we're right around 55, 56, 57%. But I want to say that collecting data has become increasingly difficult. One is, I think there's a data overload that everyone has and thinks, oh, this is one more piece of information I got on Parent Square. And the other thing is that the state of California, and I believe all or most states in the United States, have moved into this free meals for all students. So in the past, a student would need, a family would need to remit the paperwork and be qualified by the school district to receive a free or reduced lunch. Currently, every student, regardless of income, may get a free lunch every day. He or she chooses a couple of meals a day. And while many people would identify that as a very aspirational program, it actually, it's ironic because it actually clashes with how school districts are charged by the state of California for collecting data and for how the school districts are funded. So as we have families who are not necessarily motivated to fill out the paperwork because you automatically get free lunch and breakfast, we're seeing a real reduction in our ability to collect forms. So I'm just basically asking, we're going to be sending out more messages, and we'll even send out paper. Right now we're all electronic, which we think is really convenient for our families, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback that they don't have to fill out the paper forms anymore. But for those families who would prefer the paper forms, we'll go ahead and send those out as well. So I just wanted to highlight that collecting this data is an essential part of all school districts' responsibilities. They're private. We don't share any information with anyone else, and it does actually create revenue sources. So let me make a very, very concrete connection. Some years ago, we as a state fell on some hard economic times, and school districts across the state had to cut their budgets and do so in the ways that they could. So some number of years ago, we had to make cuts, and we cut the elementary music program. And ever since we cut that elementary music program, there have been ongoing conversations from the board level, which I want to compliment the board. There's always been, you have always kept that alive. And with our recent LCAP process and the way that we have worked together with our associations, with DATA and CSEA and DAGA, We've actually made a firm decision and we have a firm action plan. In fact, we met on, we meaning the district and staff and teachers met on September 27. And we actually have a plan to advertise and recruit and hire in March. This is just in a few months. In March, we will be advertising for 4 new full-time elementary music teachers. That's a huge thing. We've been talking about this for over a decade, well over a decade. And I want to acknowledge and compliment our board for championing this for years, and we're really excited. But we wouldn't be able to do the we wouldn't be able to bring back elementary music next year if we didn't have an LCAP process and revenue sources from the supplementary revenue sources that we get from the state. So I'm just tying together that when we put together our LCAP and we qualify and generate revenue sources that belong to us based upon our needs, we're able to take our destiny in our own hands, and we're able to do exactly what they say, which is a local control, and we're able to make the decision to bring back 4 full-time elementary music teachers. So this is a great thing for us, and we're really excited about it. And the only way we can do that is by staying vigilant about working with our partners at the LCAP and making sure we continue to qualify for the revenue sources that belong to us. All right.
Dr.
Yes.
Ross, can I ask you one question? Can you articulate a little bit the impact of the free and reduced lunch form and the income form, and the impact if we fall below the 55% mark, and what happens when we go above it?
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. If our percentage is above 55%, I can't give you, because the number it's a formula, but as we increase over 55%, we increase our collection of what's called concentration dollar money. And to give you an example, about 3 years ago, we projected that we would have as much as $2 million per year more in concentration dollars, because at that time, 3 or 4 years ago, we were looking at being around 60%. Well, since we've seen this negative pressure and we're starting to see our percentages drop, although we don't believe that we truly have a drop in the percentage of those students, we just believe it's a data collection issue, we're reverting back to the 55%. Well, since it's a rolling average, we're seeing currently, whereas we projected being at 2 million, currently we're up just close to 1 million, but if we get down to the 55% or less, we actually get 0. So, for us, I would say the difference we're looking at is the difference between 0 and as much as $2 to $2.5 million every year. Remembering that $2 million in additional revenue is something that can really positively impact classrooms. It can lower student to teacher ratios, which, by the way, that's one of our services in our LCAP, is to support additional full-time equivalent in math. And so to have additional math teachers, but I mean, with additional concentration dollars, we can work and we can consult with our teachers and say, hey, would we like to lower our student to teacher ratio? We would be able to do that. Would we like to add, more services, whether it be elementary music or whatever, I don't want to speculate, but whatever other services. So, $2 million versus 0, that's a significant difference.
And that difference is just by basically whether we get the forms or not.
Correct.
So it's tell all your friends, please.
So we'll continue on the campaign, and we'll continue to work to try and get 100% return of the forms. Okay, just a couple other things. About a year or so ago, Mr. Delbick brought to the board a contract with a company called Care Solace. And they're a company, a partner we use to help work through the complexities of sort of the medical and social, psychological, psych services that are available. So Care Solace, I want to share some key performance indicators. Each month, we get a report that identifies how this is working for us. So as of the very end of September, so it doesn't include October, we had 108 inbound interactions. We had 906 communications saved. The number that I think is interesting is we had 23 warm handoffs. So warm handoffs are when you know, a parent or a guardian, literally there's a recognizable handoff where there are services that are being pursued as a result of going from the school to Care Solis. And as of the end of September, we had 6 total appointments into care. So there were a lot of interactions that didn't necessarily lead to care, but a lot of interactions that maybe brought them further along where they need to be. And we'll just keep tracking the data to see where it goes. But I thought 108 inbound interactions. These are people, whether it's a staff member, teacher, student, parent, and it resulted in 23 handoffs and then 6 appointments into care. So we'll keep tracking that. I'll keep sharing information with you. All right, a couple more things. Transportation update. Ms. Robinson, our Director of Transportation, started with 11 trainees in an in-house driver training academy. Of those 11, 6 will now move on. So 6 did extremely well in the classroom portion. And so they will move on to the behind-the-wheel portion of the training. And we're really hopeful that sometime in the winter, we'll see a few new bus drivers join our team. If we could get 1, 2, 3, I mean, it'd be nice if we got 6, but if we get 1 or 2 or 3, those would be great numbers. That would be great. So I think Ms. Robinson's doing an outstanding job of connecting with these candidates, and we're actually very optimistic that we have some really excited candidates. So that's good news. We'll see how that goes. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is on October 7th, this last Friday, we held district-wide professional development. It's never an easy or simple task for a unified school district to put on, you know, trainings for all, in our case, 300 plus teachers and certificated members. You know, a unified school district is so widely diverse in its needs, but we work really hard to do that. Mr. Delbick was able to get it was not required, but a lot of our paraprofessionals volunteered to earn some extra money and to work on a day that they were not required to be there. And we had lots of paraprofessionals at the Burroughs High School Library working on behavior management. At Mesquite High School, we continued work with Kimberly Breen, working on the school climate and student engagement. You might recall that we've passed a contract with her the last couple years. For our elementary teachers, our transitional kindergarten teachers worked on instructional map building. Our K through 5th teachers worked on a number of things. They convened at Gateway Elementary School in the library, in the cafeteria there. We worked on math solutions, which helps teachers focus on the standards for mathematical practices. And through this process, we have helped students with best practices such as math talks, or talk moves is what we call them. And this helps students with solving real world problems using math and increasing engagement. And when I think back to when I was in my math classes in elementary and junior high, I do recall it being a lot of rote, memorization and regurgitation, and in some cases, speaking for myself, maybe being able to get by with some good grades, but not maybe necessarily totally understanding why I was doing that. I might have memorized the formula or memorized what to do, but I don't really know that I could tell you in every case that I knew why I was doing it. And so we're in a different era where we're really trying to connect students with not only knowing what to do, but why they're doing it. And then for English language arts, we worked with FastBridge, our literacy intervention, which is an assessment system in the Illuminate system. We've been using Illuminate for, I'm thinking, 15 years now, roughly. We measure phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. And those are the building blocks for really the science of reading. And FastBridge helps diagnose the reading need for students and then provides an instructional plan or intervention for each student. And then we use those strategies, then we use other strategies such as like grouping students and basically like needs. And then we have daily built-in interventions at all our elementary schools. The reason why I just rattled all of that off is because you might recall that last month I made a nice, genuine comment about how incredible walking through classrooms felt for me, because I saw all of these interventions happening, and I saw all this amazing work with teachers, staff, and students, and all I could say was, was amazing, and that's what I said at the meeting. And then as I sort of made sure I understood a little bit more about what we were providing at the professional development and how we were deepening our long-standing training and collaboration with these systems, then I started to better understand what I was actually seeing. So I wanted to make a connection with my compliment last month, which was really just, wow, I'm just seeing really great stuff. And I wanted to connect that we're doing everything we can to provide the professional development and the training so that we can see those great things. And anyone who doesn't necessarily know what the meat and potatoes is just sees the product and goes, wow, that's really good work going on there. So with that, I'll turn it over to the meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Good information as always. Let's see, item 4 is report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really tired, so I'm just going to give a very respectful good evening, community, staff, everybody. Let's see, today's my grandson's first birthday, and mentioning it because I kept thinking I might get a FaceTime from his mom, and I'd have to go running out, but I think he probably fell asleep because he's had a bunch of family over. So that was a fun thing to see all the little pictures of him. Let's see. Okay, so I'm up here to talk about data issues. And the thing I wanted to focus on was PD, which you just set me up for. So thank you for that, Dr. Ostash. I sent out a survey to members just to find out, because PDs are a really big deal, right? And we've got our 3 days. And I know there's no way to get everybody happy, but I feel some of the stuff that happened in this PD, based on what the feedback that I got from my survey, which I sent out last night. And so I've had some people respond already, but it's still really raw. I'm just, looking at the figures and what people have said. We haven't put everything together yet, but I do have some information. So the one thing that I want to point out is I always ask how long you've been in the district. And 45% of the people who had responded up to tonight had spent at least over 15 years in the district. And I want to point that out because I think that really matters, because these are people, obviously, I've been here longer than 15 years. I like it, right? And so I think when we see people who've been here that long, not only are they experts in what they're doing, but they have a natural sympathy for the district and obviously like stuff, right? And so I think it's really important that we listen. Certainly want to listen to new people as well, because they have fresh ideas. But I did want to point out that we have a lot of really experienced people here. And one of the things Dr. Ostash and I talked about was putting the PD right before this long weekend. And I'd done a survey years ago asking my members, what do you want? And 50% said yes at the start of a long weekend, and 50% said no. And that's kind of how it's playing out. 45% of the people responding said they liked having it before the long weekend. I think it just, you kind of lead into the weekend with a less stressful attitude. And 33% just didn't really care. So, it switches every year. And this, I thought you would all be happy to know. 51% were satisfied with the format. And this time there really seemed to be this emphasis on kind of tuning in a little bit more to what we as staff members wanted. So that was nice to know. There are a few complaints that some aspects went long, and so things that people were expecting didn't happen. But there's my grandson right now, and I have to miss him. It's so wrong. Okay, so I'll turn that over. But you all are my witness. I didn't ignore his mother. But 51% of us being satisfied with how it was set up, I think that's real progress. A couple of negatives. No anonymous feedback. Now, I know some sites today got their forms for feedback, but it's not anonymous. It's associated with the Google account, or that's how they're keeping track on whether or not you were there. But I don't think, any of us feel as comfortable when we're giving feedback with our name attached. And so I don't think that's the best way to go about it. Okay, and then looking at some of the comments that were made. One, uncomfortable seating at the middle and elementary schools. And keep it relevant. And so the math solutions, there are teachers who have had training in some of the programs. I believe it was the math. Again, I was just checking my phone. And they said they've had this and they've been doing it. And they would like to see where we have, teachers who are new to this in this kind of training and teachers who have more experience in maybe a different kind of training. And time to collaborate. I know we got to see that a lot at Burroughs, especially the English department. Being able to just have an entire day to check in with our peers, our grade level, our department peers, is a powerful thing, because it allows us to sort of calibrate, right? And just being able to go over stuff with the people who fully understand it. You don't have to explain it all. We all get, like I understand English. Third grade teachers understand third graders. So I was going to make a joke about middle school, but I held back. Okay, so I think that this is one of those times where I think the way to look at it is we're seeing a lot of positives in the collaboration, and there are certainly shortcomings, right? And once I have all my information laid out, I can be a little more transparent. I'll probably end up, sending you an email. But it makes me feel good to some degree. We're really getting on board and recognizing that, we're all trying to do this together. So I would have had more comments, but my phone wouldn't open up. So I'm not sure what else people said. But that's that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and happy birthday.
Mr. Rockwell, I apologize. Would you permit, I meant to say what Burroughs and the middle schools did, and I neglected. So it's kind of a follow-on. In my remarks, I accidentally overlooked that.
I think we can
Okay,
allow it.
thank you. So I had commented about what Mesquite did in elementary. I wanted to say that Burroughs High School worked on common formative assessments, which really actually represented the continuing work for their WASC accreditation visit. So that was really good, connecting with ongoing work that they're doing there. And at the middle school, both middle schools did the same thing. They met at Monroe and they did CPI, which is verbal de-escalation training, and then worked on grading and academic practices. And that's it. I'm sorry I overlooked that.
Thank you. No, great. Let's see, that takes us to 5, report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association.
This is the report from the CSEA president. Hello, school board members, president, superintendent, Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. This past Tuesday, we had our monthly meeting, and we had several members voice some concerns. Our pay being one of the main issues. The biggest concerns, especially our workload. When our members are coming to us and voicing these concerns and saying that they could just, off and go work at some fast food joint in town for better pay, to make more money and also have, a free meal to go along with it. How are we supposed to justify their staying with the district? It would be less stressful and more pay if they left today and went to go work there. How do we justify that they are doing an amazing job when they feel that they are not valued by the school district because of our subpar pay? Some of our classified staff have been working for the district for years and make less than people working in those industries. Your dedicated classified staff who have been here throughout the pandemic, you know, wearing multiple hats in a day, and for me, a mask, to get the job done, are stressed out and really need to feel valued. Okay. We hope the board recognizes that we as classified staff bring to the table the move forward in hopes to work out a solution to the issue of our subpar pay scale. There's a possibility that fast food hourly wage could go up to $22 per hour here in the state of California. And for me, that would take a while to get there. If that happens, how will the district keep their valuable employees? We have such a high turnover rate, and most of it has to do with our pay. It mainly has to do with our pay. The other part of it is the amount of work that is put on our classified staff because we are so understaffed. We are having to wear multiple hats for the job to get done. Workplace stress is at an all-time high and taking a toll on most of classified staff employees. We need to desperately figure out a way to alleviate the problem, or we will lose a lot of classified personnel. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job filling in, by the way. That takes us to item 6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on an item not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond the 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. So I'll open public comment at 7:45 based on the clock on the wall. Nobody is even rustling around in their seats. So we will close public comment at 7:46 on the wall. So that will take us to 6, educational administration. We'll start with 6.1, approval of the Title I Part A LEA Parent and Family Engagement Policy. Ms. Decker.
Good evening, President Rockwell, excuse me, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. Title I Part A of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, as reauthorized by the Every Student Succeeds Act, requires that local education agencies conduct outreach to all parents and family members and implement programs, activities, and procedures for the involvement of parents and family members. Such programs, activities, and procedures shall be planned and implemented with meaningful consultation with parents of participating children. An LEA that receives Title I Part A funds shall develop jointly with, agree on with, and distribute to parents and family members of participating children a written parent and family engagement policy. The policy shall be incorporated into the LEA's plan developed under ESSA Section 1112. Establish the agency's expectations and objectives for meaningful parent and family involvement, and describe how the agency will involve parents and family members in jointly developing the LEA plan under ESSA Section 1112 and the development of support and improvement plans under paragraphs 1 and 2 of ESSA Section 1111D. Provide the coordination, technical assistance, and other support necessary to assist and build the capacity of all participating schools within the LEA in planning and implementing effective parent and family involvement activities to improve student academic achievement and school performance, which may include meaningful consultation with employers, business leaders, and philanthropic organizations or individuals with expertise in effectively engaging parents and family members in education. Coordinate and integrate parent and family engagement strategies under Title I, Part A with parent and family engagement strategies to the extent feasible and appropriate with other relevant federal, state, and local laws and programs. Conduct with the meaningful involvement of parents and family members an annual evaluation of the content and effectiveness of the parent and family engagement policy in improving the academic quality of all schools served with Title I, Part A funds, including identifying 1, barriers to greater participation by parents in activities authorized by ESSA Section 1116, with particular attention to parents who are economically disadvantaged, are disabled, have limited English proficiency, have limited literacy, or are of any racial or ethnic minority background. 2, the needs of parents and family members to assist with the learning of their children, including engaging with school personnel and teachers. And 3, strategies to support successful school and family interactions. Use the findings of such evaluation in ESSA Section 1116 A2D to design evidence-based strategies for more effective parental involvement and to revise, if necessary, the parent and family engagement policies described in ESSA Section 1116 and involve parents in the activities of the schools served with Title I, Part A funds, which may include establishing a parent advisory board comprised of a sufficient number and representative group of parents or family members served by the LEA to adequately represent the needs of the population served by the LEA for the purposes of developing, revising, and reviewing the parent and family engagement policy. On September 8, 2022, the Superintendent's Council representatives from each school site reviewed and approved the draft Title I, Part A LEA Parent and Family Engagement Policy. Upon board approval, the policy will be made available to all families on the Sierra Sands website. Each elementary site and Mesquite Continuation High School will send the policy to all families via Parent Square. These Title I school sites will also create a school-level parent and family engagement policy jointly with and distribute to parents and family members of participating children agreed on by such parents that shall describe the means for carrying out the requirements of ESSA Section 1116 C through F. Parents shall be notified of the policy in an understandable and uniform format and to the extent practicable provided in a language the parents can understand. The policy will be made available to the local community and updated periodically to meet the changing needs of parents and the school. Each elementary school and Mesquite Continuation High School reserve a minimum of 1% of its site allocated Title I funds to provide family engagement opportunities annually. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the Title I Part A LEA Parent and Family Engagement Policy as presented.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions from the board or the community? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Takes us to item 6.2, approval of industry business members to Career Technical Consultation Advisory Committee. Ms. Decker.
California Education Code 8070 requires that the governing board of each school district participating in a career technical education program, or Carl Perkins, shall appoint a Career Technical Education Consultation Advisory Committee to develop recommendations on the program and provide liaison between the district and potential employers. Perkins 5 expanded the scope of stakeholders who must be consulted in developing a local application. There is an increased focus on including local employers and business leaders to ensure a match between skills needed in local markets and those possessed by students who complete the career technical education programs. During the comprehensive needs assessment process, the school must consult with a diverse body of stakeholders, which at a minimum includes representatives of CTE education programs, secondary teachers and administrators, counselors, state, regional, or local workforce development boards, local or regional business leaders, parents and students, and representatives of special populations. Activities of the Career Technical Stakeholder Consultation Advisory Committee may include, but are not limited to, providing input on annual updates to the Comprehensive Needs Assessment, ensuring programs of study are responsive to community needs, aligned with employment priorities in the state, region, or local economy, informed by labor market information, designed to meet current, intermediate, or long-term labor market projections, allow employer input into the development and implementation of programs of study to ensure alignment with skills required by local employers, including activities such as identification of relevant standards, curriculum, industry-recognized credentials, and current technology and equipment. They can also help identify and encourage opportunities for work-based learning and ensure funding is used in a coordinated manner with other local resources. The following business and community representatives have volunteered for and are recommended for appointment to the Sierra Sands Unified School District Career Technical Consultation Advisory Committee. Carl Etling, he's a Boeing field rep from Boeing Company, China Lake. Nicole Griffin, the Dean of Career Technical Education at Saracoso Community College. Terry Hack, ADT Counselor at Saracoso. Nicole Henneberry, the STEM and Student Outreach for NOCWD. Ray Hawker, the Video and Photography Group, NOCWD. Scott O'Neill, Executive Director of the IWV Economic Development Corporation. Mike Peterson, Engineer for NOCWD. David Santiago, the Employer Training Resources Center. Diana Sleva, the STEM and Student Center at NOCWD. Diana Taylor, Environmental Health and Safety Specialist at Boeing China Lake. Alan Van Evel, Research Physicist at NOCWD. And Angel Zamaron, the STEM Outreach and Student Employment Center at NOCWD. In addition, the committee consists of Sierra Sands Unified teaching staff, students, parents, counselors, and administrators. Incidental costs for this consultation advisory committee are considered a reasonable expense through Carl Perkins 5 funds and are anticipated to be less than $200. The 22-23 Carl Perkins allocation is $65,511. It is recommended that the board appoint the individuals named above to the Sierra Sands Unified School District Career Technical Consultation Advisory Committee for the 22-23 school year.
Got a motion, a second. Any questions or comments from the board? I think the only thing I'd say is I'm grateful to that crowd of people, both named and unnamed on that list, for working hard to make this be a quality program for our students. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Decker. Takes us to 8, Personnel Administration.
Move 8, 1, and 2, and 3. Sorry.
Did we move?
Yeah,
There were like 2 voices for the motion. I was a little puzzled as I wasn't watching. So.
I moved 1 and 2, and I think 3 is a standalone. I think it probably ought to have its own attention.
And did our second, is that for 1 and 2? Mike. Okay. Any questions or comments on items 1 and 2 from anyone? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Takes us to 8.3, waiver request enabling the district to assign individuals in certain certificated positions without appropriate credentials. Dr. Ostash.
It's what we do every year. I mean, twice a year, 3 times a year. We have a motion and second on it.
We do, yes, I did hear that. Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Mr. Ferris, since you wanted to pull it out. We're good? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous as well. Takes us to item 8.4, authorization of a new classified position, speech and language pathology assistant. Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. I'll be taking a couple of Mr. Ald's items as he's attending the senior football night with his senior son, and I'm glad he's there. For this particular item, the background information, the initial paragraph talks about some information we're all well aware of related to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and also the extent to which local education agencies like Sierra Sands are required to provide a free and appropriate public education to students with disabilities. Due to a state and national shortage of speech language pathologists, school districts are having to contract with outside agencies to provide the speech language therapy that is required by law for students who qualify for these services. We know this to be true because we have engaged in some of these board items and contracts with SLPs in the last several months and also the last few years. These services are usually provided virtually by teletherapists who are not physically present with the students. So our current considerations, the district currently has only 3 speech language pathologists known as SLPs who work in person with the students. Only one of these SLPs is a full-time therapist. The other 2 work part-time. While teletherapy works extremely well with most students, there are some students who require in-person services, whether that's due to age or disability, such as a very young student or students whose disabilities do make it difficult for them to interact with a therapist who is virtual. The district provides paraprofessionals who work with the teletherapist, assisting them with interactions with school staff and providing adult supervision when the students are in session with the teletherapist. The 3 SLPs in district do not have paraprofessional assistants. They work with some of the youngest students and those with the most severe needs. They provide small group and individual therapy as required by student IEPs. In addition, they go into individual special needs classrooms and do provide language enrichment services to the students. The district is requesting to add the position of speech and language pathology assistant to the classified employee salary schedule. SLPAs, that's how I think we talk about them, SLPAs, we always have to have an acronym, work under the supervision of the licensed speech language pathologist, the SLP. They're required to have an associate degree in and/or graduate from a speech language pathology assistant certificate program, or a bachelor's degree in speech language pathology or communication disorders with a minimum of 70 hours of field work or clinical experience from a board-approved program. They must have or be eligible for registration as a speech language pathology assistant with the California Department of Consumer Affairs Board of Speech Language Pathology and Audiology. Among the ways that a SLPA can assist the SLP are assisting in providing therapeutic intervention according to IEP goals and the treatment plan developed by the speech language pathologist, assisting in implementing IEP plans or protocols and documenting student progress towards meeting established objectives, and assisting the SLP during assessments. These services would enable the district to provide additional in-person speech language assistance. So in other words, that's a very long way of saying by adding this position, we think that we can under the sort of duress of this shortage of supply, we can sort of widen the net of the type of professionals we could bring into our organization in person to help our SLPs provide the service that we need to provide our students. The district is proposing to place the position of speech and language pathology assistant at range 32 on the classified salary scale. The pay range for range 32 is $21.36 to $25.96 per hour. So this would be a classified position, whereas the SLP position is a certificated position. I recommend that the board approve a new classified position, speech and language pathology assistant, as presented.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I just have one. Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson.
The question I have is, do we have any other classified positions that actually need, like, the credentialing from the state to be in those positions?
Do we have other classified positions?
This seems like a really unique skill set with extra credentialing from from the state and other things. I mean, it seems, it's an interesting thing. And some of the qualifications with a bachelor was 70 units.
Right.
Or 70 hours.
We have some, and I'll let Paul come up, but like for
Okay.
for example, an LVN, a licensed vocational nurse, is going to require
Right.
a variety of
Credentials.
certificate
Right,
training.
certificates, right.
And as Mr. Delbert comes up and speaks, I might be able to think of some of the other examples in our
Okay.
classified service.
Yeah, we do have CODAs, which are Certified Occupational Therapist Assistant. We have one. I mean, we'd love to have more. Same thing with SLPAs. They are hard to find. But we do have, we are getting our first RBTs, which we talked about last year. They're the Registered Behavior Technicians. And they go through a tremendous amount of hours and examinations to do that. So the more and more we can get these classified positions that are, certificated, the SLPA could actually do the work under a SLP of delivering therapy. They just can't assess and, deliver reports, but they can do a lot of the day-to-day work. And, once again, it's finding them, but having the position available is something that we need to do before we even go out and look at them.
Thank you.
And I will add, that's great, thank you, Mr. Delbick. I would add that if we can get some people in our district, join our team, be a part of our culture, what would be nice is if some of these SLPAs could end up pursuing and becoming SLPs. You might recall that some years ago, we engaged in an MOU with Data that actually, there are 3 folks I can think of who, unfortunately, one is retired, one after many years of service with us went on to a different employer, but we have also looked at getting people in our organization who show really good propensity and then helping them with some financial assistance to bring it home. So in a perfect world, we might get some SLPAs, 1 or 2 in there, and then they might become an SLP for us, and then it becomes we're kind of opening up the recruitment pipeline.
Dr. Hauk?
How many, ideally, how many of these would we have? Do we know?
I'm gonna leave that to Mr. Delbick, because so what we always do is we have this artful and scientific balance between, because we have to always balance what is the best services for our students, but also our fiduciary responsibility and sustainability. So we want theoretically to have the least number of any positions that we have that would adequately, appropriately serve. So that's just kind of a boilerplate answer. Then I'll leave it to Mr. Delbick as to what he's kind of thinking about this right
So
now.
there's 2 answers to your question, Dr. Oak. One is financial. Every virtual speech therapist we get, we have to have a paraprofessional with that. So that's 2 positions we take on. The SLPA could take that position away. We'd love to have them at our elementary schools, because that's we know our younger kids benefit. But, we're doing the best we can with virtual, but ideally, we would have all of our services delivered by in-person SLPAs with SLPs, creating the lesson plans and, but we couldn't right now because we only have 3 SLPs, and due to the workload that they have, plus getting their SLPs, 2 would be the max per SLPA. But if we could, that's pie in the sky, right? Getting 6 of them, then we have 9 in person, then we'd only have 3 virtual, and we'd only have 3 paras that go with those. So there's a lot of, and it's not the financial, it's the best services that we can give, but there are the implications of not only the financial, just getting 2 people, right? We're excited to get a new virtual SLP. Great, now we have to find another para to work with that person too, so they can walk the students over and make sure the students are getting their services. So it's a good question, but.
Thank you. Well, I kind of zeroed in with Mr. Johnson on the qualifications, and seeing that the first qualification is an associate certificate program. So that means community college. So doing a quick search, how many of those programs are out there? And there aren't as many as we might think out of 116 community colleges in the state of California. Not all of them have those, but that's, ideally we'd be reaching out to those or even to our local one to say, hey, we've got a new position. So that's something that I was interested to see, that this is something that associates, it can just be an associate, and it comes in at over $20 an hour, which competes with some of these other jobs that we've heard about this evening. So that's what I was thinking. How many? Are we talking 6? Are we talking 10, 15? How many? because getting that pool of workers is also a challenge. So the idea of where we're going to find them was what was in my mind.
Dr. Huck, do you know if our local community college has that program?
I have an email ready waiting to see what happens after this,
Okay.
as it turns out.
All right. Any other questions? I'm just curious why an SLPA is a SLIPA, but an SLP is not a slip? I don't.
We can make it up.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Let's see, that takes us to 8.5, approval of memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Independent Study. Dr. Ostash.
Yes, sir. Up until this is being presented, we have not had language in the contract that would speak to any kind of overages for an independent study teacher, because until the pandemic, it was never an issue. We never had any more students in independent study than one teacher, could handle. But as we know, the pandemic pivoted our programs, and we went from having 15 and 20 and 25 students at any given time in independent study to, I think our high water mark was somewhere around 170, 180 students, and so we really scrambled. Everyone scrambled across the state. We scrambled. We went from having one full-time teacher to 3 full-time teachers, and we had somewhere around 4 or 5 teachers who were working on their prep period and doing an extended day contract to help provide the full menu of instructional services. It was something. Since that time, our independent study numbers have gone way down and are down, I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but under 100, somewhere between 60 and 80 maybe, but I can give a report next month on that. But it was good to have experienced that, because DATA did issue a demand to bargain on July 7 and really wanted to address the issue. So we did. We sat down and we worked through that process. We met to negotiate an MOU on July 19. During the session, the 2 teams were able to tentatively agree on most components of the MOU, and then on September 8th, the parties reached a full tentative agreement. In general, the MOU specifically defines how some of the articles that exist in the collective bargaining unit will be applied to the independent study teachers, and notably, it defines class size, compensation for overages, and the procedures for dealing with overages. And subsequently, DATA membership ratified the MOU. A copy of the MOU is attached for review. And basically, without going into the details, it does a lot of replicating equivalent values that we have already in our contract for the gen ed population. And really the only difference is that the state created some new rules in independent study that have to do with how we measure engagement. We never had that before, but we now have different rules for how we measure engagement and what the instruction looks like depending on your grade levels. And so what we did was we sort of tiered the numbers that we would consider a reasonable amount, and then the overages based upon those state-defined grade level spans. They're a little bit unconventional. I would say they're TK through 5, and then 6 through 8, 9 through 12, but they're not exactly that. There's a couple different breakdowns in the elementary, and then the elementary middle school level, and then it moves into the high school. But it was nice to work through the process because we were able to pretty much apply the same types of agreements that we have in our regular contract with DATA. So I recommend that the board approve the memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Teachers Association titled Independent Study as presented.
Got a motion, a second. Any questions or comments? Dr. Haupt?
It's just for this school year?
It's ongoing. So yeah, so it's here and ongoing, and so when we reach our next contract cycle, we'll integrate this language into the contract.
That's what I was,
Yeah.
that answers the question that I was trying to ask. Thank you.
Any questions from the public? We'll have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Takes us to General Administration 9.1. Report to the board, nature and resolution of complaints. Before I read the whole thing, I'll just ask, have we had any
No, there have
findings?
been no complaints filed.
Would anybody argue if we, since this was information only, if we dispense with this, you guys okay? All right, thank you. Then we'll go to item 9.2, report on 2022-23 school year Williams Settlement Site Reviews, Quarter 1. Dr. Savko.
Good evening, President Rockwell, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Austache, staff, and community. The 2004 Williams case settlement resulted in new legislation stipulating that certain levels of service such as equal access to instructional materials, safe and decent school facilities, and qualified teachers must be maintained by California school districts. Additionally, the settlement established regular formal monitoring for Williams issues, and it created complaint procedures for anyone with concerns, as evidenced by 9.1 on the agenda. In 2021, California modified the law for monitoring to revise the formula for determining schools for regular review. Assembly Bill 599 became effective on January 1, 2022, and updated the criteria for schools eligible for monitoring under the Williams settlement legislation. As outlined in AB 599, schools are eligible for monitoring under the Williams settlement legislation if criteria are met. The 21-22 schools were identified for monitoring under the following criteria. 2019-20 Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, assistance status, category of Comprehensive Support and Improvement, CSI, graduation rate, low performing, CSI low performing, or additional targeted support and improvement, ATSI. Or this criteria, 15% or more of the school's teachers do not possess a valid and clear or preliminary teaching credential. Under current considerations, I'm going to give the board a highlight because this report's not required, but in keeping with our board's vision and commitment to transparency with the community, we thought it would be a good idea to share this information. So as you may know, we had 6 school sites qualify for a Williams review based on this criteria. 5 of the 6 schools had 15% or more uncredentialed teachers. And as you know, that is reflective of the national shortage of qualified teachers and regionally as well. So as a result of being selected for a Williams review, we had a visit from Kern County Superintendent of Schools on August 16th and 17th. Site visit reports were provided by KCSOS to each respective site on September 26th, and those reports are attached to the board packet for review. In summary, all sites were reported to have sufficient instructional materials. Gateway, Inyakern, James Monroe, Murray, and Pierce were reported to have exemplary school facility ratings. Burroughs was reported to have a good facility rating. Burroughs was identified as having the following deficiencies to be addressed in the following locations: band room, F-wing men's and women's restrooms, K-wing women's restrooms, M-wing men's restrooms, and multi-use room. Murray was identified as having a deficiency in the handicap water fountain. Maintenance has resolved most of the deficiencies and will resolve any remaining issues upon receiving the needed materials. A report on the resolutions is attached to the board item for your review. Quarterly reports will be submitted to the KCSOS Williams Settlement Coordinator and presented for the superintendent and board's review in October at this meeting, January, April, and July. Financial implications are attributed to the cost of repairs needed to resolve the identified issues, and the source is general fund. The presentation of the Williams Settlement Review status is for informational and reporting purposes and does not require board action.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board or community? All right, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the information. takes us to item 9.3, authorization for board member travel to the annual school trustees fall dinner meeting on October 24th, 2022 at the Kern County School Boards Association. Dr. Ostash.
Okay, the board has protocol requiring the board to authorize all board member travel as was established way back on May 7, 2009. The 2022-2023 travel budget for the board was approved for $22,000. Current consideration, the annual school trustees fall dinner meeting of the Kern County Schools Board Association and the Kern County Superintendent of Schools Office will be held on October 24th, 2022 in Bakersfield. 4 board members may be attending with an estimated cost as shown below, which you can see shows a total expense of about $330. The travel budget for the board for 2022-2023, as already mentioned, is $22,000. To date, approximately $12,788 in travel costs, which includes the upcoming board travel to the CSBA Annual Education Conference, has been approved.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Over $330. Or the community? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. That will allow us to temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Board of Education. I'll call to order the meeting of the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority, and we'll start with item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes.
Surprise. Item 2, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of September 15th, 2022. Any changes? No. Then they will stand, and we will adjourn the Inyo Kern Schools Financing Authority meeting and re-enter the Sierra Sands Board meeting. Take us to item 13, consent calendar. Got a motion, a second on the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Let's see, takes us to item 14, future agenda. Any future agenda topics that we want to discuss this evening? Seeing little motion from my left, we'll move to item 15, adjournment. The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be November 17th, 2022. But before that, don't forget to vote. Thank you all and have a good night.